Hey there, everyone. It's Erron Spalsbury here at 3X Logic. Today, I just wanted to give you guys just kind of a brief overview of the VIGIL server and ultimately the server software that, of course, is running on this particular appliance. Now, keep in mind, this is true enterprise class software. So I'm going to go ahead and switch on over here, take a look at the VIGIL server. This is just, obviously, we've logged in here, and I'm just simply going to jump into the settings on the DVR just to kind of show you some of the major benefits that are in here. In fact, over here off to the left, you'll see all of these various cameras, this top one being a thermal here. You can see really kind of at a glance what the camera is, the camera titled, how it's being recorded, the IP, so on and so forth. You know, all the way down even to, let's say, for instance, this PTZ, what type of control it's being run. And of course, this would be advantageous in a 360 camera or PTZ. But really more than anything, at a glance, you can get an idea of what each one of these cameras are doing without having to go into each one of these camera settings, you know, independently of each other. Now, having said that, let's go ahead and dive deep into one of these guys and take a look at it. So you're going to notice here up at the top, this is the type of camera that I'm on here, but I'm going to scroll up to the top of the list and just kind of show you all of the various cameras that we have built into the software here, and really all of the formats and protocols that we can bring into the DVR, and ultimately why this is so open source and works with so many different manufacturers. Well, of course, a raw HTTP string, ONVIF Profile S, PSIA, RTSP, all of those great things, you know, even down to a USB camera. I mean, good grief, you can even plug in a small Logitech camera, have it look back on your server, just keep tabs on it. And you can do that right here through the software. As I kind of scroll down through the list here, you'll see that there are a lot of manufacturers that are directly integrated into our software. But of course, nowadays, most everybody's using kind of that global catch-all, you know, ONVIF and PSIA here. But even beyond that, guys, I'll even show you this too. All of our software, I can come in here and say, let's say, for instance, I want to pull channel 2 instead of channel 1. All of these URLs are entirely customizable. They're not locked in. You can plug in any URL that you want. It's extremely open source from that standpoint, as well as all of the major output protocol streams, H.264, 265, sub, main, TCP, JPEG, all of those. If the camera outputs it, it'll actually show up here within that stream type. It's really nice and really kind of intuitive as far as that goes. You'll also notice down here, I'll point this one out to you, the enabling web interface in the client. This allows you to be on the client and bring up the camera's web interface through the software, meaning you don't have to be on the same computer or in the same browser as the camera. You can actually do that through our remote client software and make those camera changes. That is a great, great utility to have. And I always encourage people to turn that on so that if you do have to do any type of remote administration of a camera, you can actually do that right here through the software. On top of that, up here at the top, there's a detect cameras button. This is actually how we go in and search for what cameras are on the network. And we've got a few different versions of these on here. This is obviously the one for my own cameras. It shows you all the ones that are listed. If I had any that were on the network that weren't in my VIGIL server, they'd be listed up here at the top. But obviously, this is how we can come in here and detect all of those cameras and ultimately assign them into the VIGIL DVR. Now, beyond this, guys, I'm going to jump off of this one here. I'm going to come down here and show you a couple of kind of tips and tricks in the recording mode down here. Now, this one is set up to record based off of motion, okay? And within our motion settings, you'll see the entire screen is actually drawn on here, but I'll turn a few of these off over here off to the right, okay? Just to kind of give you an idea. Each one of these little blocks, I'll click one right here, that is a trigger block. And over here off to the right, I can tell it how many trigger blocks have to be tripped before it starts recording. Well, within each one of those trigger blocks, I have a certain number of pixels, and that can be modified by this slide bar down here. This is the threshold bar. Okay, and I'll leave this guy, let's say, set to 56, meaning it's going to take more than 56 pixels to start triggering recording. But I'll go ahead and throw this into test motion just to show you what I'm talking about. That number that you see is how many pixels are actually moving within each one of those trigger blocks. Now, if someone were to walk in here, or I were to exceed that slide bar threshold, I believe it was 56, it would actually turn red. Well, this is really nice because now I can come in here and I can see exactly what is triggering motion within the system. Maybe I have an LED or a screensaver in the background, or maybe a car on a highway, whatever it is. I can see this and I'm not going to accidentally set the system up to record all the time. I can really fine tune this within our software, and it's really nice to be able to do this customization. Now, not only doing video-based motion recording, but we can also do motion alarming. You can see I've got this enabled down here. In fact, I'll jump into the motion settings on the alarming. I'll even hit clear on it and set one up for you here. So let's say, for instance, I just simply wanted to set off an alarm if someone walks into this cubicle here off to the right. Well, I can just simply draw that area in, okay, just like you would on anything else. Or if I want to know only when someone walks into that area and maybe not out of that area, I can come in here and I can actually set this to draw a region. So let's say, for instance, someone were to come out of, let's say, this conference room here off to the left. I'll draw that area in. Then I'll come over here off to the right. I'll draw this area in. So I now have two different motion areas. And now, of course, I'm going to set a vector. And I'm going to say, let's say they did come from the left side to the right side of the scene. Well, now that is my vector motion analysis. And this is just a basic analytic that is built into our software. Again, motion sensitivity bar down here for each one of those regions. But this allows really some nice assets to the software, because if I wanted to know maybe, at 5 o'clock, all the employees are supposed to be going out of the building, but yet someone holds the door open and someone comes into the building. Well, I'd want to trip an alarm off of that, or, backs their car up backwards on a highway off ramp or whatever it is, something just simply going the wrong way. We can trigger an alarm based off of that. In fact, I'll leave that one on here. So what can I do as far as the alarming? I'm going to jump into alarm setting in here. And of course, we can always just set this on a schedule, maybe, I don't know, all day Sunday or whatever, maybe a part of the day here on Wednesday, whatever it is. Anything in green is when the alarm is going to be activated, or when the schedule will be activated, okay? Now, beyond that, what do I want to do with it? Well, I want to trigger a relay, and I can do output DIOs, right? Atom 6060s, IP addressable modules, any of our V250 or V500s, you have output relays. We can trigger those directly via this alarm. Really just kind of some nice options in here. Post motion record, we all know what that one does. Local alarm obviously gives you a great little descriptor down here. Basically just means it'll keep it local, won't send it anywhere else. Perhaps we want to trigger other cameras when this alarm goes off to start recording, and we can certainly do that through here. But let's jump over to the notification tab. I'll walk you through a few of these guys because these are really nice to have too. Popping up an alarm screen, just simply on this one monitor that's connected, or every monitor that's connected. Now, this is a little bit different than what we have the alarming on the cell phone apps and the VIGIL client, if you guys have seen those. Those will automatically, they're constantly being sent to those, and you turn that functionality on or off at each one of those prospective softwares, either on the cell phone app or on the client. So that's why there's no setting in here to turn it on or off. It's always on no matter what. You just choose whether or not you receive it outside of that. Now, the audio notification setting, this is really a great feature, because system beep is kind of boring, but you can do a wave file. We use this in a lot of outdoor areas. If, for instance, maybe someone goes car shopping on a Sunday, and as they approach the building, hey guys, no one's here, come back on Monday if you really want to look at a car, or, you're approaching a secured facility, we're watching you, just whatever it is. You can obviously play these automated wave files, or maybe it's just simply your favorite song, whatever you want to do. And we can do that right here through the system. If you do have a guard watching it, obviously we can do the auto acknowledge, turn this on or off. If it's off, okay, if this guy is turned off like this, that means that they're going to have to click a button to make that noise stop, that wave file stop, or whatever it is. Otherwise, it's going to self-suppress itself after 10 seconds here. You can also do email notification and attach a still shot. This is really nice. Not only will it notify you if there is some type of an alarm conditioning that's happening, but maybe you just simply want to keep a record of every single person that's ever driven onto your lot, just a simple snapshot of their car. You can do that. You can do that right here through the software. Really nice, easy way of being able to do that type of archive in here. You can also turn off just the email notification. Maybe you're a guard, you're going on vacation, rather than deleting your email out of the system. You just want to suppress it just for now, right? Or maybe we have a bunch of business owners in there and we're testing it from a technician standpoint. I don't want the emails going out. I'm testing it locally. We can suppress all of that through here. Really kind of some nice stuff in here. Now, I'll touch a bit more on some of the other recording modes in here. For instance, the ability of setting up constant with variable speed. Well, what in the world is that? Well, that means I can have the camera recording at 1 frame a second all the time. But if someone walks into that room, well, now it's going to pick up motion and it's going to jump to a different frame rate, right? We do this in police interview rooms. We want to basically prove or disprove that someone was in or not in that room for a certain amount of time. Well, we're going to record that camera all the time at 1 frame a second. As soon as someone walks into that room, we're going to bump up to whatever the camera's set to, 20, 25, 30 frames a second, whatever it is. And we can do that right here through the software, including standard alarm only, meaning I've got an alarm of some type. Do I want to record based off of video motion alarm? Perhaps it's a relay input. Perhaps it's just simply a schedule. I just only want to record this camera on Thursday, right? Whatever it is. A tremendous amount of flexibility here within the software, guys. We can do a lot of things in here. I'll also touch on this one too. You can see this heat map, this generate heat map, just simple checkbox that's here off to the right. Any camera that is tied into a VIGIL server can generate a heat map. That is one of those analytics that business owners love. We can do this, even if it's an old school analog camera, we can still generate a heat map based off of that directly into the software. And it's really nice because you can pull up all of those metrics through the client and they can see them from anywhere in the world. Camera control. Just to touch on a few of these guys, obviously, if it is a pan tilt zoom camera or other type of 360D warping, this is actually where we're going to set that. If you guys have ever seen our 360D warping camera, this is actually where you come in to turn on that functionality to get that 4-way window pane that allows us to have the digital views around there and whatnot. In fact, you can even come in and set up digital presets on any camera. You give it a name, right? You come in here and you set this guy up, and then that way you have digital presets within the software, basically taking one camera and making it look like as many cameras as you want because you're zoomed in on a particular area or what have you. Really nice functionality. Video loss notification. Well, yes, we can come in here and someone unplugs a camera. I'm going to shoot out an email to so-and-so business owner so that he knows that his employee unplugged it, right? That kind of a thing. We can definitely do that. However, what if the employee is smart and they don't unplug the camera? They hang their hat on it or spray paint it or put a piece of duct tape over it or hit it with a snowball. Well, that's actually camera blanking. You can actually adjust how much of the image has to be blanked out, right, before we can trigger an alarm. But that is classified as video loss, even though the camera is still running. Camera blanking is another one of those great features that we have in here so that we can be notified if we do have somebody on site that is modifying the camera outside of what we want them to do. We can also trigger relays as well. Perhaps we want to come in there and, I don't know, turn on a light or lock a door or sound a siren or a blinky light, whatever it is. We can do that through here as well. Just a couple of nice little things. Now, the audio tab here, this is set to disabled because I don't actually have one on here. I haven't associated one yet, but this is where we associate the cameras to the microphone. They call this a coupling, right? I'm coupling a camera to a microphone. Now, I'm going to come up here to the top. I'm going to jump over to this audio tab here just to kind of walk you through this here and give you guys kind of a brief overview of it. Because I get asked this one a lot. I'm going to hit the add button here. We do have both audio recording as well as audio talk. Well, that means every camera, or perhaps even just the simple headphone jack. I'm sure we've all seen this on our computer. We have a headphone and a microphone jack on our computer. Same thing the DVR has. We can use that to either talk back or talk down or have a two-way communication with somebody back at the site, okay? That means that I've got full voice over IP control, whether it's back to just the standard, stereo headphone jack or IP audio, meaning it's coming out of a camera. So if I have, for instance, let's say one of our multi-sensor cameras, I can not only listen into what's going on over there, but I can also talk back down to them should I want to, answer a question that an employee may have or that type of a thing. And yes, we can do that right here through the software. And this is where we actually program in all of those associations. I'll touch on a couple of other neat little things in here. I didn't want this video to be too long, guys, but within our user groups and our users, you can have as many users as you want in as many groups as you want, and you can have as many permissions within those groups as you want. And I know that sounds really vague, but let me show you what I'm talking about here. on my groups, I would come over here and I would tell the groups what permissions each one of these groups would have, okay? Like for instance, if I say add a group, I'll put in, I don't know, test group, something like that, right? None of those permissions will be checked, but I can come in here and I can give those permissions to them by simply just checking in these boxes. And I can have as much or as little of granularity as to what I let my users do in my system as I want. And it's as simple as putting a check in a box. Okay. And again, as many people as you want, as many groups as you want, and as much granularity in each of those groups that you want. Totally customizable, 100%. One of the other things I'll touch on here real quick, guys, is the decoders tab. This is actually where we launch our decoder wizard. So if you've ever used one of our decoders allows you to take IP cameras and stream them out to a monitor, spot monitor, at the front door of a gas station or what have you. This is the wizard. We actually have this built in. It's right here on the software and makes it nice and easy, kind of a no-brainer setup. Just walks you through all of this stuff when you have one of these guys connected. But guys, didn't want to go too deep into this. I wanted to just give you a brief little overview as to some of the things that we're doing here within the VIGIL server software and ultimately some of these settings. I hope you guys enjoy these videos. I plan on doing a lot more of them, but thank you for joining today, guys. We'll see you on the next one.